For real.
Since we got this new knowledge, you know?
Yeah.
Knowledge of self.
Right.
We're just really trying to establish something, build up a structure so people can come on board, you know?
Right. Well, like the y'all saw the brothers in Delaware, the Delaware
Yeah.
So at the Delaware lecture, the Grand Sheik over there, he's doing just like what y'all doing out of his house. So, you know, it's not what you're dealing with right there is pretty much how the temple could run. You know, you just got some flags or whatever, find a room, put the flags up, and you start moving on that level.
Yeah, so that's what we're working on right now is getting the funds together. Everybody's, you know, sort of not really screaming, but trying to do what we can do to bring funds together for the nation.
Right. Well, ultimately, you're gathering the funds for your faction of Moors there, right? Because the main thing is to have a group of Moors around you that are serious. There's the door. Yo, the door is open. So like I was saying, the brother has the temple out of the house.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And majority, like it might not come across like that, but majority temples, that's how they start out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 5, 6, 7, 8 brothers, sisters, or whatever, in a little space, and you just, you know, do what you do. You know what I'm saying? You just do what you do.
We've actually been to a temple out in Atlanta. I don't know if you know the brother's name is what was it? Rael. Yeah, but he was saying all types of things about Taj and stuff. We were just really listening in to see what he had to say.
Right.
So we can have what he says on record, you know.
Right. Actually, you can give there's another temple you could check out there with Grand Governor Heru.
Where was that at?
That's I don't even know exactly. He's a 404 area code.
I'll look it up.
But you can take down his number. It's 404 957 3733.
Okay, cool.
957 3733. Grand Governor Heru.
Okay.
And you could just let him know that Cujo sent you. That's one of the Moors who when we first came onto the info, that's one of the Moors. Actually, let me see if I have any of his books right here. The two books I got right now is this one right here.
Okay.
Flag above any other.
Yeah.
And then he has this book right here. What's in a name?
Alright.
Yeah, and he goes in. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's one of the like the personal master teachers, like how we look at Taj and nature and Aleem and all them. That's one of the brothers right there.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do right now as well. Build up our library.
Right.
As you know, as the prophet said, our literature. Our literature is the main thing. You know, we have to change our literature. And actually, a lot of people have to, you know, get into perspective what the real history, you know, what our real history is.
Right. Well, see, even on that level, like a lot of Moors don't even live up to that part as far as the literature. Like there's few Moors, you know, like Heru, you know, Taj, Aleem, you know, there's a couple other Moors out there that have, you know, Malachi York. You got mad literature out there. You know what I'm saying? 360 books or whatever. You know, even like Elijah Muhammad, all of them. You know what I mean? Like once you have a certain degree, you got to put it out. You know, and if you're not putting it out, then you know you might as well just hang it up. You know.
Collecting dust. You know?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, but again, that's why I mean, for myself, like I was telling them more this today, that I don't really stray into other Moors and all that, like, you know, because we were brought in under certain Moors.
Right.
So when it comes to getting the info, we deal with those sources and that's it. Like
that's how people too.
Yeah, if there's new Moors, you know, they might have some good info or whatever, but more than likely, you know, their sources, Taj and and Alim and those Moors too. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
we try to stay close to home as possible as far as getting the Moorish perspective.
Stick to the
You know what I'm
source.
saying? Yeah, straight up. Because you can't get better than Taj.
Exactly.
You know what I'm
Breaks it
saying?
down so
Yeah, you
well.
know, you can't get better than Taj. Grand Chic Nature in Asbury Park.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of his videos as well.
Yeah. And also too, with setting up, like it's good to get with, you know, different groups of Moors that are active, so that way your perspective would be broader. You know what I'm saying? So like, you know, like we try to join every temple that is active, right? Or have some type of allegiance with those temples. You know what I'm saying?
That's what, and that's exactly why I was reaching out to you, because I know you guys are proper out there. So
right.
I wanted to align all of us with that, so we could be on the course.
Right. Most definitely. And all the active Moors are on that perspective.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, sometimes we have to challenge, you know, ask the questions, like, you know, what temple you belong to and all that, but, you know, it's more for you know, more to identify them. You know, like when I ask those questions, it's because I want to know, you know, what faction are you with? You know, if you're at Kirkman Bay, well, I already know that there's the letter that Emily Hill put out saying that Kirkman Bay is fraud.
I remember watching your video that you put that as well.
You know, yeah. So it's not a diss per se. You know what I mean? But you know, if there was certain things that were laid down, you know, then you gotta deal with it. You know what I'm saying? You gotta present it. You know, I mean, not to take anything away from Kirkman Bay. You know, he did work. You know what I'm saying? He had a fez on and all that. Yeah. But you know, some people took checks. You know, majority of people in this movement took checks. To be honest with you.
I know more than half took checks.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That's why we're in the condition we're in now.
Exactly. And you know, and like Drew Ali said, you know, new Moors are gonna come with their eyes wide open. And once the new Moors get on this, it's gonna be a whole different game. I don't know if y'all heard, Malcolm Shabazz just got killed in Mexico. Yeah, bro. That happened today.
That was just recently.
Yeah, today.
Oh, today. Wow.
Today. He got killed today.
Mexico, right?
Yeah, in Mexico. You know, Trump up stuff. You know, something about they were trying to rob him or something like that. Somebody threw him off a roof or some madness like that. Roof. But then again, you know, somebody else saying that he got shot. So you know, they're already starting to. They don't know what happened. You know what I mean? They don't know what happened, but they know what happened.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Unfortunate. But you know, that's a good example of, you know, status is, you know, nationality is the order of the day.
Exactly.
Because that's the same reason why they took out Malcolm. You know what I mean? Not having a status.
Really see that with everything.
You know, right? And again, people, you know, I mean, they're gonna talk on it. You know, people are gonna talk about it, you know, conspiracy and all that, but the real conspiracy is ourselves, not recognizing who we are. And want to go around, you know, picking fights with people who have a status.
Yeah.
Because majority of people out there that we're fighting, you know, they're gonna go back to Irish or Scottish or German or whatever if it really comes down to it. Right? You know what I mean? Like, they're not gonna sway like how we sway. You know, or jump to different, you know, things and claim this, claim that, like Malachi York, you know, right? They're gonna stick to their nation.
That's why we're trying to find the best way to bring that to our brothers and sisters. Because mostly it's the young, our generation that's like even is resonating with. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we're find the best way to let them know that they have something. They all want to belong to something.
Right. Man, it's the same thing right here. The Mufti out here, he has like open class, right? He has open class at the dojo. So the last few, I was up there on the weekend, and 3 brothers came in, you know, younger brothers came in on the Saturday and Sunday, they were ready to nationalize.
What's up, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's what the frequency is of the younger, just like you're saying, the younger generation, they want something.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And they know that everything out there, they don't want.
You know and my brother just said, it's the energy. Energy.
Yeah, and a lot of them too, I mean, you know, even today I was building with a brother at the school, and I put him on to, you know, watching the Moors, Moor versus Police with Brother Fontes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And he came back today and he's like, yo, like, where's this been? You know what I mean? Like, where's this been all my life?
Right.
You know what I mean? Where's this been? Because, again, Drew Ali even said that he came for the young and unborn.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He didn't come for all those people who were around him. You know what I mean? He came for the people, he came for us. You know what I mean? He came for our generations and generations to come. You know, and like Brother Taj says, you know, back then, he might say young unborn back then, but the young unborn are here now.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And you know, we know that we're the ancestors returning. You know, we know that this is the Millennium Renaissance. You know, no different than in Europe.
Right.
You know, like because right now there's a Dark Ages going on here right now.
Exactly. Again, once again, you know, so we got to bring that information back once again.
Right. Right. And that's how you're gonna get those ones out there. You know what I mean? Also too, like Brother Asir said, keep it pristine. You know what I'm saying? Don't even meddle in stuff that has nothing to do with, like, don't even meddle.
Right.
Stick to the protocol. Drew Ali brought a certain protocol. You know, you're not Negro, black, colored. Once you get over that, then we could go into other info.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know? And like I'm saying, yo, like, you know, honors to you, Moors, for stepping up. Because this is not something that I do. Like, people don't link me on this level. You know what I'm saying? You know, people don't link me like this. Like, I don't do Skype calls and all that type of stuff. You know, like, this is my first Skype call. Yeah, like for real, right? This is not so. Yeah, you know, and it's not that I don't want to do it, but you know, only certain people resonate on the frequency that they're gonna call.
Right.
You know what I mean? Most times people are complaining that, you know, I'm too hard on people and why are you talking like that and all that.
They don't see the bigger picture though.
Yeah, you know. So, you know, our thing out here that we push is quality over quantity.
Right.
You know, that's why I was saying that, you know, if it's 4 of y'all, it doesn't really have to be 9 of y'all. You know, if it's 1 of y'all, we could build, you know, we got the tape running, make a DVD of it, and then now we got class that we could distribute or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You know. But yeah, yo, let's get into this a little bit and you know, get some questions answered and all that, so we can get some work done.
All right. Well, I guess I'll start with one of the most important, just as far as being able to connect with different Moors all over, like as far as the traveling aspect and like passports.
Right.
What do we do as far as that?
Oh, all right. Let me get that. Hold on one sec. Yeah. So if you go on RV Bay Publications, or if you Google RV Bay Publications, learning to live within contracts.
Okay.
Right. There's an article on there about learning to live within contracts.
Right. That, so, you know, I actually think I have that article. I just gotta read over it.
Right. Yeah.
Like my brain one time.
Right. So the idea is because we're under occupation, right? Certain things might not be as easy as it's supposed to be.
Right.
Right. On top of the occupation, we have the fact that Moors haven't done what they're supposed to do for the nation for such a long period of time.
Right.
So, you know, like Moors basically dropped the ball. Because if you check out, well, I mean, if you find a Mason that's willing to talk to you on a certain level, they'll let you know that they got Masonic passports. Like they don't even have passports for the country where they live or whatever. Like they have Masonic passports that they use going around the world or whatever.
Wow, and out here there's a lot of Masons.
Right, yeah, you know what I mean? So, you know, and if they're Europeans and they're after us, then we should have our own passports too. If they have their own passports.
I agree,
right? So to put that aside, being that we don't have that, right? It's all about learning to live within contracts.
Right.
So when we get the contracts, you know, we do our you know, all rights reserved, you know, UCC 1-103, UCC 1-308, and then you could get the stamp. Let me get that too. Yeah. So like what we did is we just went and we made the rubber stamp, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just get the rubber stamp, and then you just stamp whenever you have to sign.
Okay.
Right? And then this is just the foundation of learning to live within contracts. Reserve your rights on all those contracts. Right? So then you can get this made, Staples or whatever like that, you know, Home Business Depot or whatever. Right? And then here's a way that you could bring in finance. Sell these at $20 a pop. It costs you 10, 15 or whatever to make it. Right? And you sell it at $20 to everybody who comes in, and that's just something standard. So you have, you know, you get funds that way. Right?
Actually, who was actually talking about that not too long ago, doing some stamps?
Yeah, yeah. Because it just makes it, you know, opposed to writing it, you know, it gives a different frequency. You just stamp the paper and sign.
And so, as far as using that stamp, what would we use it on?
Like whatever contracts.
Whatever contract. Okay.
Like whatever, especially things that you're signing in the name on the birth certificate.
Okay.
Right? Just to protect yourself, so that later on, when they do come at you, you can go back to your nationality. Right? Like ultimately that's what living within contracts comes down to. Right? It comes down to you being able to go back to your nationality. Right. So you reserve your rights on the contract so you can do that. You know? Even though, you know, more than likely the contract is adhesion, fraud, you know, color of law, color of authority, and all that. Even though that's the case, right? You still just reserve your rights just for the simple fact that you can now, based on you having a nationality. Right? And then like, for example, a Chinaman learning to live within contracts is he could go back home.
Exactly.
Well, if they come at him. You know what I'm saying? Right? He can leave.
Exactly.
Right? If they say you owe 50 million, he could just go back home. And not have to worry about paying nothing. Whereas, you know, we're kind of stuck here. Right? That's why it's, you know, like for example with the all rights reserved, at the bank that I go to, right? You know, I put it on the paper, sign the paper, and then the teller pulled me aside. She's like, "Yo, you do that too?" Like I thought I was the only person that did that, you know, whatever. And she's telling me about she works at the bank, and she's telling me about people lifting signatures and, you know what I mean, people like forgery and you know, and it's important that you protect yourself and protect this, you know what she said, your signature. Like I know it's not mine or whatever, but you know what I mean. You know, the way she was talking, she knew a certain degree of information. It might have been from the sovereign citizen perspective, you know, like the Euro pseudo sovereigns, right? William Shroud and Robert Menard and, you know, all those guys there, David Wynn Miller and these people, It might have been from that perspective, but the idea or the principle of it is the same thing, right? So like, for example, if you're gonna exercise from the straw perspective, like this is the Canada passport, right? And then like all over it, like you see, like it says like Canada all over it. So this is not my stuff, right? So, you know, so in it, like you take your picture, you know, you know, and then this is where you go with the religious right.
Okay.
Whenever you're dealing with the corporate position, you're going from a religious perspective, not necessarily a national perspective. So like when we go to court, for example, right? Like I would say that my religious headwear. Because if I say national headwear, they might kick me out of the court because, you know, I don't need to be up in there if I'm a national.
Right.
Right? But from a religious perspective, you know, I might have matters to deal with, no different than, you know, the Buddhist. He goes in there, he's going to have on his garb. If the Sikh goes in there, he's going to have his turban wrapped up or whatever and all that, you know. And religious rights out here is a big thing. Like Sikhs went to court, like when I was in high school and stuff like that out here. The Sikhs were going to court when I was in high school about being able to walk around with their dagger and not wear helmets. You know what I mean? When they ride their bike, because the helmet can't go over their turban, and being able to work, right? You know, like bus drivers, for example. You know, like Sikh bus drivers, they have a turban. You know, Sikh police officers, they wear turbans and stuff like that. They don't have police hat and bus driver hats or whatever. You know what I mean? And they let them go with it. It's not like they stop them. You know,
they respect that.
Right. You know? So, yeah, man. So once you get the stamps and stuff like that, and then, you know, now mind you, having the mentality that you're going to reserve your rights on the contract also gives the people that you're contracting with, it gives them an idea of where your mentality is. Right? So you might find a lot of situations where you're taking a lot of situations where you reserve your rights on something, and then all of a sudden you're talking to managers and supervisors and whatever, because, you know, the clerk, they're gonna try to make you not do it.
Right.
You know, they're gonna say, well, no, we can't accept it or whatever. All right, well then, you know, we're gonna take it to the next level up. Right. You know, it's just like with my passport. When I went to do my passport, the first, like, how they have it set up here is like, when you go into office, you can go into office with your forms filled out, or you can go into office and get the form, right? So I went with the form filled out, so I already signed everything and all that. So I went to there's two lines. There's the people who take your form, then they check the form, make sure everything's legit, and then they send you to another line to go pay and get all your stuff done, right? And then there's the line just to go pay and all that. So I went to the first lady, and she was adamant that, yo, you know, I can't sign like that, you know, you can't do that, you know, we need to be able to see your signature when you whatever, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, yo, listen, like, that's my signature. Well, that can't be your signature. People's signature is only a name. Your signature might only be a name, but that's my signature. You know what I mean? Like, I have to put that when I sign. Well, you know, if they deny you, don't get mad at me or whatever. So she kicked me up the line and sent me to the pay people, right? And then I go to the pay lady and I give her the thing, and she just, oh, all right, fine, no problem. Here's the thing, you know, pay, and that's how I was out of there in 5 minutes, right? So like, if I would have went with that first lady, right? She would have basically denied me the right to reserve my rights.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Without even me challenging or contesting it. Which is where half the problem comes in, because we don't ever challenge. Right? Like we don't stand the ground that we know. We usually back off because we don't want to cause a problem, or, you know, and a lot of that is the mentality, the black mentality that we're coming out of, that, you know, as soon as we start, you know, exercising or speaking in a certain tone, that they're automatically going to think that we're a threat, and they're going to call these people, you know, enforcers to come and take us out the building and whatever. When, you know, we go back to the prophet, and he said, yo, you know, act in an intelligent tone. You know, if you go in an intelligent tone, they don't have nothing. You know, that eliminates that whole you're threatening to them. You know, it's like a situation that just happened today. Because I work with the school board, right? So I got called because a teacher said a student was being threatening, right? Now, as soon as I went up there, you know, I realized that, okay, it was a sister from the continent, you know, English, you know, is not her first language or whatever. And her energy was like, as soon as I walked in the room, I felt her energy, you know what I mean? So, you know, but the whole class was backing her.
Okay.
Right? You know what I mean? And the teacher's situation as well, you know, he's like playing the passive role, you know, well, you know, I called them because, you know, I'm not comfortable the way you're talking to me, blah, blah, blah. You know, and I'm talking to her and I'm realizing that, okay, well, she's speaking from a place of frustration, right? And then that's where they want to try to get us when we start exercising our rights. Because once they get us to a place that we feel frustrated, that, you know, well, they're not accepting my stuff and they're not whatever and they're not, our mentality should be, well, I don't want to contract with you then. Opposed to fighting to get what we want from them. You know, like if somebody says, well, you can't reserve your rights on this contract. All right, cool. Wipe my hands and I'm out the door. Because why would I want to contract with you if you don't want me to reserve my rights?
Exactly.
But then if I ask you to use your logo, you're going to tell me, well, no, you know, that's our logo, and, you know, you might try to use it to make money or whatever. Which means you're reserving your rights. So you can reserve your rights when you deal with me, but I can't reserve my rights when I deal with you. Right? And if that's the game, then I don't want to deal with you, because I have a right to reserve my rights. You know, just like these guys have a right to put on their video that, you know, title or whatever, you know, imprisonment if you copy this DVD. That's reserving their rights. You know.
We can sue if they try to deny us of our rights as well, right?
We can, but again, it's the perspective. So we don't want to go to the criminal to sue the criminal.
You're right.
Right? But what we could do is we could write a writ. Right? We could write a writ, put our free national name on it, put criminal complaint on it, you know, like writ of error, writ of discovery, claim of right, you know, just, you know, different titles at the top, you know, whatever title we're going to put.
And, you know, we were just talking about that today because we wanted to present a writ to the mayor of our city,
right,
or county mayor, or both, just having her affirm, you know, on her oath that she recognizes the Moors, and we can, as you know, bring our proclamations, the proclamations that were on RV,
right,
see that as well.
Right. So when you send, if you're gonna go to get the proclamation from your mayor, use all those other proclamations.
Right.
Put that in there too.
Right.
So that way they, you know, it's not something that they could deny. Like that's something that we didn't do. Like we did that up here, right? We sent the proclamation to the mayor, and then you know, we got the letter back. Well, you know, it's because it's religious, and you know, as I think he even said it, as a corporation, you know, we're not able to recognize religious whatever. But then, you know, when you check out everybody else, the Sikhs are on there. They get proclamations every year. The Jews get proclamation every year. The, you know, whoever, Roman Catholics, Catholic, Protestant, you know, Jehovah's Witness, whoever, everybody gets religious proclamation. All of a sudden, as soon as the Moors come up now, you know, they don't do religious proclamations all of a sudden, right? You know, and it wasn't a thing where we were looking for it, because we already put them on notice about who we are, so we can understand why they're going to deny it. You know what I mean? Because if the mayor backs the Moors, then that's going to be an issue out here. Because like as far as Canada's concerned, like you know, this jurisdiction is supposed to be, you know, the example for the multicultural communities, that everybody could come here and they're not going to get violated or whatever, you know, because Canada's, you know, lily white, and, you know, the snow's white, and, you know, everything's beautiful out here, and come on out to Canada or whatever. Not even telling people that, yo, they're denationalize them as soon as they get their paperwork, their visa or whatever, the citizenship or whatever, right? You know, it's a process of denationalization. But again, people who come here, they could go back home. They don't have to stay here if it really goes down out here. They could leave. You know, ultimately they can just leave, and with them leaving, you know, it opens the door back again for us. You know what I'm saying? Because even with where you're at, you know, if you just do your research on, you know, like if you go to the registration office and do a name search on all the different organizations that, you know, black organizations, you know, like, you know, you might pay something for it, $50 or whatever, you know what I mean? You do a name search and then you find all the organizations that are where you're at, that, you know, black organizations, African organizations, Negro organizations, you know, take King Alfred Plan, you know what I mean? Use the 12 organization list in King Alfred Plan and check those names and see if they're out there, you know what I mean? And you'll clearly see that everybody's taking checks from the same enemy that they're talking about in their group or whatever. Like, how are you talking about them in your group, but then you're taking checks from them? You know what I'm saying? And,
all about that.
Yeah, right? So you know, like with dealing with the mayor and all that stuff, like you can go that route, but use everything at your disposal. You know what I'm saying? Like being that you're new, there's stuff that's been going on for the past 10, 15, 20, 30 years with regard to the Moors that you can now use as evidence to just put in, you know, you send them a package, you know, envelope like this, right? With everything and anything about the Moors in there. So that way they have no dispute, they have no quarrel, you know, it's either they're gonna say yay, or they're just not even gonna deal with it because, you know, they already know what's coming if they deal with it.
You know what, we actually already, like when we first found out, we went up there, you know, with our flag. Right. To present ourselves to the city mayor, which we later on found out that the county mayor really runs things.
Right, right.
But still, we came up there, you know, with just 3 of us coming to present ourselves. You know, they let us in. You know, they tried to wave the metal detector on the flagpole or whatever, but we surpassed that, went upstairs, and when we got there, the mayor's secretary said, "Oh, she left the office a couple of minutes ago. We just missed her."
Right.
So we figured, oh, she saw us coming in, and she went ahead and went and hid.
For sure, right? But again, you know, it comes back to the thing again about the obligation of these criminals that are sitting in our seat, right? They have an obligation to the Moors.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like when you check out, you know, the Barbary powers and all that. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that they know that at one time they used to pay tribute to the Moors.
Right.
Not even like they used to give up the tribute, not us asking for it.
Right.
Like they'll just give up the tribute because they know, right? It's not a secret. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, that's why, you know, Grand Sikh Nature told me something years ago, right? If you want to really be active, do all the humanitarian work where you are. Have food drives. Have, like community cleanups. You know, if you know any other groups doing that stuff, get down with those groups. You know what I'm saying? You know, fez up, turban up, and be in the community so that people could see. And then also too, have some type of handout. Just create some flyers. You know what I mean? Picture of the Prophet on there, little information about the prophet, blah, 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 you know, that you have meetings or you have classes or whatever, just to get the word out to the people. You know, when you're doing these humanitarian works.
Right.
Right? You know? Because, you know, like we're saying, we're a different breed of Moors. You know, we're not the sit back and do nothing Moors.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we're the Moors that are game to do something. You know, not because we're getting something from doing it or whatever like that. Ultimately, just because it has to be done, and it hasn't been done. Because
Right.
if it was done, we wouldn't be here having this conversation right now.
Like us, we're just looking for something to do, you know, something to like the prophet said, uplift fallen humanity.
Right, right.
Things to do.
And it's an obligation that we have to do that. You know, it's not something that, you know, like Moorish leaders' historical message to America, right? The object of our organization is to help in the great program of uplifting fallen humanity and teach those things necessary to make our members better citizens. A national organization with a Rotarian complexion as it relates to branch temples became obvious with the increasing number of inquiries from men and women in different sections of the country concerning the purpose of the organization, right? So once you go out there and do that humanitarian work, you know, for example, just like the Mufti out here is doing the humanitarian work, and he has a dojo and he's giving, you know, classes to sisters for self-defense, you know what I mean? Classes to young brothers that just, you know, idle, they have nothing to do or whatever. You know, instead of go play some basketball, you know, come to the dojo. You know, he just started up Friday night fight club. You know, where, you know, people who are training or whatever, you know, you gear up and you know, take out some anger on each other. You know, in the act of love, not try to beat up your brother, but you know, take out that's humanitarian work.
Right, right.
You know what I'm saying? Helping people relieve their stress and all that type of stuff, right? And in him doing that, right, younger brothers that, you know, and it's people that we don't know. It's like, this is like little brothers that we know, you know what I'm saying, that been in trouble with the law and all that. They're calling us when they get in situations, you know what I'm saying, to find out how to deal with certain things, you know, how do we talk to these people, you know, that you know, because they have a thing out here where they have this thing called 208 cards. And 208 card is basically 208 card is basically the authority that these policy enforcers have to question you, get your name, get your address, get your blah blah blah. You know, it's like a formality. You know, where you fill out the 208 card, and you know, and they'll sit there and fill out the card. You know, and then they have a database that they put the information in, right? And you know, the youths are starting to realize how to deal with them. That, you know what, I don't have to fill out no 208 card, or if I'm filling out your 208 card, then you got to fill out my 208 card.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
And speaking on that, do we have a database like started up for our Moors?
That's what the temple's for.
Okay, right.
You know what I mean? Like you're going to be that database.
Right.
It's like when I don't know if you saw the post a few weeks ago about the Moors that went to the county recorder to go get their stuff filed, and they told them they can't file their stuff there.
Of course.
Right? Yeah. You know, situations like that is why there's a temple.
Right.
Because we don't need to go to them for anything, especially now is the Aquarian age and all that.
Right.
You know what I mean? We should already have been for having that protocol.
Yeah, and when we do things out here, we'll make sure we send them to y'all so you all can, you know, have that for your record as well.
Right. It's just and you know, and send it to other Moors.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Send it to Moors across the country. You know, because again, the activity is going to come from active Moors. The activity out there is not going to come from passive Moors. Like the only reason a lot of Moors are on the info is because of how active Taj is. And like he says, you know, like my Divine Minister paper says, you know, I'm supposed to take this to the hedges and the highways. So that's what I'm going to do with this. You know, I'm not going to keep this in the corner and, you know, oh yeah, well, I'm Taj and, you know, I have all this information, or I'm nature and I'm just going to sit in the corner here. Like all the Moors who have temples, who say that they're Grand Sheikh, Grand Governor or whatever, should have a YouTube page putting up their classes. Have a Ustream putting up their classes. Like that's supposed to be standard.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the things that elevated us, right? Because we put the information out there.
Right.
And again, like more, you know, there's Moors in Alaska and these places.
Word.
You know what I mean?
There's Moors out there, but any like subordinate temples out there?
As that far, I don't know, because I think that's really the only Moor out there. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we, you know, we build and he studies and all that. You know what I'm saying?
Which is good though.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I know Alim's been in contact with a lot of Moors in like Cuba, Mexico, you know, the more south, you know, South America. There's a Moor from here that's in Jamaica. He's out there, you know what I mean? And he's out there exercising in his free national name. Like has license and all that stuff in his free national name in Jamaica.
That's good.
You know what I'm saying? So it's you know, not because you didn't hear the tree fall means that it didn't fall. You know what I mean?
And as far as like licenses go, do we have? I saw that post that was put up not too long ago on Facebook about the conveyance, I guess you would say, insignias or plates or whatever.
Right.
Is there any move towards that?
Again, there's a good brother on Facebook, Jelani Bey, right? Get at Jelani Bey, let him know Brother Cujo sent you,
Okay.
right? And that brother's been exercising right to travel for like the past 20 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because I actually on this little program I have on my computer, I made a tag, I guess. I made one. I'll send it to you later on so you can take a look at it.
Yeah.
But I'll definitely get in contact with Jelani.
Yeah, because there's a, you know, it's not necessarily about making the tag. It's how you're
present yourself,
presenting it, right? You know what I mean? Like, you know, because there's, you know, like if you've seen the right to travel cases and all that, you know, like you don't even need that type of tag on your car.
Exactly, yeah.
Or conveyance or whatever, you know. But again, like you don't even need to call it car, conveyance, motor vehicle, or whatever. It doesn't matter. You know, the bottom line is that licenses only apply to vehicles that are a particular weight.
Okay. Right.
You know what I mean? We're not even getting into what it's called. Once the weight of it is under, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's like, I don't even know the exact amount, but cars don't even qualify. You know what I mean? You know, it doesn't even qualify to be under the license, you know, demonstration, right? Common cars aren't even on the list. Mainly it's like trucks, buses, you know what I mean? Like that type of weight of conveyance or vehicle is under the licensed jurisdiction, you know. But again, you know, we haven't been doing what we're supposed to do for so long that they got comfortable, you know, running that fraud. Like for example, out here, they have two plates. They have plates with black writing and plates with blue writing, right? Plates with black writing are for quote unquote commercial vehicles. And plates with blue writing are for, you know, everybody else. You know? And when I was in high school, everybody had black plates. Right? So, meaning that driving was only for commercial purposes at one time.
Yeah, exactly. Which
Right?
makes sense, you know, that'll be the reason why they're a driver. They
Right.
drive for some type of commerce.
Exactly, right? So like, for example, like, these were the tags that we were running with out here,
Okay.
right?
Oh, that's a real good one.
Like this was the back, and then this was the front,
Alright. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Similar to that as well.
You know, right? And you know, it's how you're maneuvering with it. It's better. Like when I started exercising with these, like it was just me with them, so I was an easy target.
If we can
You know what I'm
go ahead
saying?
and get some copies of that, we'll go ahead and, you know, send you some notes for that. And we can get uniformed up as well.
Right. But and again too, like it's you know, we get for lack of a better term, carried away with the perks that we get from nationality and birthrights, right? When really it's not about the perks. The real work is about going out there and get those people.
Exactly.
Cause we don't, you know, like you can probably get further. Now, yes, it's not an issue to get tags and slap them on and go out there and do what you do, right? You know, it comes down to what's really the point.
Right.
Is the point for people to see that we have our tags and, you know, want to get tags, right? Or is the point for them to see us as good citizens, right? And then starting there, and then get to tags and passports and whatever else it is, right? Because again, with us coming in, you know, like we've only been going 7 years, you know, so we still even say that we're new. Like we're not no adepts or nothing like that on the scale of, you know, length of time in the movement. You know what I'm saying? We're novice, you know, but the people that we have around us is why we're as powerful as we are. The people that we study from is why we're as powerful as we are. You know what I mean? Like, and again, like with my case, you know, I had the plates. I had the plates for 9 months, getting followed all over the city by peace officers or public servants. You know what I'm saying? Never getting stopped or nothing like that. You know, if I do get stopped, question, you know, give them the paperwork, give them the nationality card, they go back to the car, do the, you know, whatever, okay, we have no jurisdiction, here's their stuff, like, bye.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, but, you know, it's tormentous. You know what I mean? Always having to look over your shoulder, or when you see them, you know what I mean? You already know that, okay, well, either they're gonna follow me for 500 miles or they're gonna stop me. You know what I mean?
I guess my wanting to know about it is just so we can be more proper as far as our presentation instead of having their place. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, if you already have their plates right now, right? Use it as an avenue so you can get to the stage of having our own plates.
Okay.
Because you don't want to, you know, get Moorish tags, throw those on, start exercising, and, you know, have problems that you weren't having before. You know, especially if you're in a situation where, you know, you don't have any issues with your driving record, quote unquote. You know what I'm saying? You know, if there's no problems, you know, it's business as usual. You know, look at it from the perspective of, you know, let's say you drove bus for a living, right? And you come into the information, you're not gonna just, you know, well, okay, well, driver's license fraud, so, you know, I'm gonna throw my license away
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And go to work and just say, yeah, well, here's my paperwork. This is how I travel now because, you know, I'm more or whatever. They'll fire you. You know what I mean? Because
me personally, I've really been trying to cut out the de facto in totality. You know what I'm saying? Do everything from a Moorish aspect, from an aspect, which I know is hard, but I'm willing to do that work. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to have to dish out. Me personally, I have children. I don't want to have to dish out extra notes just to get, you know, renew my license plate, renew my registration every year. You know, renew my license every year.
Right.
I have to worry about that. But I see what you're saying as well.
And then also too taking the load off is also about terminology. Because if you look at it as their license, not yours, it's not that much of a burden, right? If you look at it as, you know, the fiat that you're dishing out isn't even, that's not really what you're not dishing out any money, really. You know what I'm saying? You know, or if you have you know, like I have 2 slaves. You know what I'm saying? Like I work 2 jobs, but I know that they're not paying me in none of them jobs. You know, my pay is, you know, this youth man that I build with that, you know, comes tomorrow and said, yo, I researched that stuff that you told me and yo, you know, whatever, you know, or that mom that comes and says, yo, you know, so-and-so had a good time at the program, you know, that's my money. You know, like the paycheck or whatever is secondary, but, you know, like my thing is perspective. You know what I mean? Like how we looking at this thing, you know, and if we collectively look at it as that's nothingness, it'll disappear tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like for example, there's a Moor out here. He has, you know, he has their plates. He has their license or whatever. When he gets stopped, he doesn't even show it because he's standing. He's just like what you're saying. I'm going from a Moorish perspective. I want to get rid of the de facto, right? I don't want to deal with the de facto. Brother doesn't deal with them. As soon as they come up, but yo, I know you guys are policy enforcers or whatever. I know you guys have, you know, just give me the ticket because I'm gonna take it to court anyways. I'm going to beat you guys up in court. So, like, what is it? What are we going to do? You know what I mean? You can't tow nothing because car's good, plate's good. You know what I mean? Another thing is putting stuff in other people's name. That's another way to not deal with the de facto. Right? Find people who are willing to be corporate people.
Right.
And put the stuff in their name. You know what I mean? And then when you build with Brother Jelani, He'll tell you about making the transfer of taking all those things out of their hands and then putting it into the temple. And then ultimately that's where it's gonna go when you're talking about getting rid of the de facto. Because we're the ones that are gonna have to step up to that governmental position. We're gonna have to be the DMV, not them. We're gonna have to be the Department of Motor Vehicles. We're gonna have to be the Department of social services. You know, we're gonna have to start, you know, issuing cards and, you know, papers and these things so that the people don't have to go to those people anymore. You know, right? But again, you know, we are literally 100 years behind. Because this should have been done 100 years ago. We shouldn't even have to go through what we're going through right now. You know what I'm saying? And it's because of these Moors that didn't do what they're supposed to do. You know, they want to play a power game. They want to be the ones in charge and all that. You know what I mean? They didn't want to humble themselves and follow what Drew Ali said. You know, they said, well, you know, he doesn't know what he's talking about, so I'm going to go do this thing.
Dealing with that lower self.
We're dealing with that lower self, right? When they didn't even have to go that route. You know what I'm saying? And that's across the board. You know, like Elijah Muhammad, the you know, Nation of Islam, UNIA, Hebrew Israelites, Nuwapians, like whoever, all those guys were supposed to stick to the protocol.
Yeah.
And all of them said, nah, forget that protocol, I'm gonna do my own thing. And then here's where we are. That we're talking about, you know, right to travel. When we're like, that's not even supposed to be a discussion.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Should we have our tags or should we use their tags or whatever? Like they're not even supposed to be in the country. They're bankrupt.
Exactly.
They're supposed to go back to Europe in '33. Right? Like they're bankrupt. And Noble Drew Ali is who bankrupt them. Like, he bankrupt them. He went to the Pan American Conference and got the mandate back. Right? Which means that they had no collateral anymore. Which is why Roosevelt had to come with the New Deal and all that. You know what I'm saying? You know, Noble Drew Ali did that. To the point where, you know, like, Europeans were coming to thank Noble Drew Ali after he passed. Europeans by the hundreds, thousands were coming because how much money he saved them by telling them, you will put your money in the post office. Take your money out of the bank, put it in the post office. Because that's going to fall when I'm done with them. And that fell. And they're still here today, exercising like nothing happened. 100 years later. You know what I mean? Right? And ultimately, you know, like what you're talking about, yeah, like I'm with it, 100%. But trust me, if we're going out there as 5, 6 Moors exercising right to travel, you know, if it's not as tight as can be, right, we're gonna suffer. Because trust me, I suffered on numerous levels just for putting those tags on my car. You know what I'm saying? And it's not suffering that, you know, you want to deal with. And it's not even suffering from the enemy. It's like suffering amongst my own. You know what I mean? You know? Right? So, you know, it's not a statement of, you know, discouragement or nothing like that. Yeah, you know, exercise right to travel, exercise, you know, your nationality card as passport. Like, even on that level, you don't even need passport. You're supposed to go with your nationality card. That's your passport. To go on a plane, to go across the world. That's what we're supposed to be using. You know, but again, you know, and that's why I go, you know, Dirty Moors is so hard, because I know what they did. You know what I mean? Like, I know they caused this. It's not, I don't have no problem with the European. Europeans doing what they're supposed to do as Europeans. I can't knock them. They're doing what they gotta do. It's our ones that caused all this that we're going through right now. You know what I mean? Ones who decided to, you know, side with the lower self and not see the bigger picture. Not see that you know, this wasn't about them. This is for the younger ones and for the sisters. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know? Because if we wake up the sisters, then the youths are going to come out the womb already with this info, and they don't need to worry about right to travel or whatever. You know, just like Kirikou. You know? I don't know if y'all seen that movie. Y'all seen that movie, Kirikou?
Kirikou?
Yeah.
I'll spell it. I have to check that out.
Kirikou or IKU.
Okay.
Kirikou. That's the perspective that Noble Drew Ali wanted us to get to.
Okay.
It's a children's movie, a children's cartoon.
Alright, I definitely have to check that out.
Yeah. You know, and again, it's yes, we have to challenge them, right? Because yes, they are running a fraud, right? With the whole licensing and all that stuff. Like, it's a fraud that they're running, right? They're running a racket. Treason, all that. Like, you know, the grimiest of grimy game is right to travel and giving people the privilege of driving and telling them that they don't have no right to travel. When Supreme Court cases say that we have a right to travel, hands down, and nobody can't even talk when we exercise that, but they do because, you know, that's money out their pocket. When all these Moors stop paying insurance and stop paying car notes and start claiming all these vehicles that they're buying, paying $300 a month, you know, $600 insurance or whatever, like that's that's trillions of dollars they're losing. You know, but if we get the people's perspective on nationality first, it's going to make that fight easier. You know, opposed to, you know, somebody seeing your plates, you know, they get excited, they want to put plates on, then they strap plates on their thing, and then now they get pulled over and they can't defend it. And then they lose everything. And then when they lose everything, they're going to blame you and say, oh yeah, you sold me messed up plates, you sold me messed up paperwork, you know, stuff doesn't work, like paper and metal could defend something. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's about, do you have the knowledge to defend what you're talking about? You know, and many people, you know, it's like we try over here. We try to wean people off. You know, we're not cold turkey out here.
Right.
You know? If people want a cold turkey, you do your thing, but you're on your own. We're here to help you or whatever, but you're on your own if you want a cold turkey. You know, we suggest, you know, gradually getting off of the meat. Don't just go hardcore vegetarian tomorrow just because, you know what I mean, you don't want to eat meat no more. You know, because you're going to hurt yourself. Like, it's just simple as that. You know what I mean? You know? So again, because I have to stress, like, it's not a thing of deterring, you know, Moors from exercising right to travel, but these people aren't playing. They just killed, you know, Malcolm Shabazz. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, they took him out. Yeah. And he wasn't even on no nationality and birthrights. You know? And they will use us as an example. Even though, you know, like we'll suffer, you know, like with my case, you know, like they hit me with 9 tickets, had, you know, like, you know, 6 cars when they pulled me over, you know what I mean? Everybody have sirens on and all that, you know what I mean? You know, and I know people who were passing by. I know people who were passing by and they seen it. And they were like, yo, you swear that, you know, like they pulled over, you know, a guy with 50 guns in the trunk and, you know what I mean, pounds and ounces and keys and, you know what I mean, they were going at this guy, you know, like that, you know, and they give that appearance to divert the other people, the ignorant people, you know.
That fear.
Yeah, they'll fight you tooth and nail just to instill fear in those people watching. You know what I mean? Because they know that the people aren't there. They know the people are gravitating on the lower south. Most people aren't even, they don't even get to the heart chakra. And they get to the heart chakra, they get scared, go back down to the lower chakras.
Oh yeah. We've had that before, you know.
You know, right?
We've had people run away from the knowledge. That's why I want to just make sure we get some lessons on how to present it the right way.
Yeah, man. The best way to present the information is how Noble Drew Ali gave it to you. You know what I mean? And he was very simple in his approach. 101 questionnaire and the Holy Quran of the Moor Science Temple. And in those 2 documents right there is everything. You know what I mean? And then you have the prophecies just to back up everything that's going on today, just to say, well, yo, Noble Drew Ali said that in 1913. You know, Noble Drew Ali said that there's going to be an Asiatic president and a European vice president. 1913, that's happening right now. Century later, manifesting. You know what I mean? Noble Drew Ali said, you know, you're going to go to the store, there's going to be soldiers standing there telling you, yo, you ain't going to no store right now. That's what's going on in Boston right now. Yeah. Tanks in the street. You know what I'm saying? You know, talking about, you know, the destruction's gonna happen in the South and all that. Get your people out the South, because that's where destruction's happening first. You know what I mean? And
I'm trying to figure out what we can do, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. We what they call out here where we're at, they call it the gateway to the South. So
right.
We're trying to make an impact.
Yeah, South Gate. You know what I mean? The South Gate. And again, like the fact that you Moors are stepping up, right? The fact that you Moors recognize nationality and birthrights, you know, Allah's gonna guide you. It's not even an issue. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just how it works with Moors coming into this information. If you're coming into the information from the perspective of, you know, you're sincere with what Noble Drawley brought, you're humble in the fact that, you know, he is the last prophet. You know, we recognize all divine prophets, but, you know, Noble Drawley is the last prophet to come, right? And that, you know, you're willing to put your life on the line for this, for your nation, just like, you know, brother in Tiananmen Square, whatever, they lie down in front of a tank for his nation, and it doesn't even matter. If you're gonna roll over me in a tank, do so. At least I'm dying for my nation. Once we have that type of conviction in this, yo, Europeans will give stuff to you. They'll just give it up. They're not even gonna question nothing. They'll just let you do what you do because they know that, you know, we can't do anything. You know, come back to the fear thing. We can't do anything to get these people off the track. You know what I'm saying?
I wanted to ask you, like, as far as homeschooling goes, what's your take on that?
First thing, sisters should head it, right? So if there's, you know, 3, 4 sisters, and you got children, they proclaim their nationality, nationalize the children, and then wherever the temple is, that's also the school, right? If you go to, there's a sister on Facebook, Alzara Bay.
Okay.
Alzara, she's homeschooling her children.
Okay.
If you get with Sister Adam Ashanti, right now she's going into college right now, and she was homeschooled. Right? Like she was homeschooled, and she's going into college right now.
Yeah, I know it's possible and everything. I was just really, you know.
Yeah. And the you know, cause we haven't gotten there yet, you know, but the idea is the temple is that.
Right.
The temple is that. And again, wherever the temple is, that's the school, that's the office, that's the temple, that's the regency, that's the storage facility for whatever. Like everything is at the temple, because the temple is safe haven.
Right.
You know what I mean? The temple is like what the Vatican is to the Pope.
Okay.
You know, the temple is like what the U.S. Embassy is to a foreigner. When they go, when a quote unquote U.S. citizen goes somewhere and, you know, something kicks off and they're running into the embassy, right? You know, when they're on foreign soil.
So, like, as far as our Sunday school goes, is there a certain? I know we were supposed to go over the 101s, of course, but is there anything else that we should keep in, or as far as going over?
Well, you know, you would basically set up the temple schedule based on, you know, covering first the Friday Holy Day meetings, right? Which is where people would come to, you know, hear about the demonstration. They would hear from all the different heads for all the departments, and then at the end, anybody want to proclaim their nationality, they do that at the Holy Meeting, right? Sunday school, yeah, you have the, you know, Circle 7 studies. Just think about church Sunday school and what went on when we used to go to church. Sunday school. It's like same idea, right? Only thing we're dealing with more science, right? And then you would have, you know, maybe Tuesdays you have civic class, and then Wednesdays you have Mufti class, and then Thursday you have, you know, like the schedule is whatever you want it to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, and it doesn't, you know, what the Prophet did in doing those things was to give us some type of order. You know, it was mainly to teach us order. Mainly to teach us how we're supposed to govern ourselves, you know, and to instill in us the importance of study. Like really, that's what it's about. You know what I mean? The importance of study. And then when we study, and we get to that point where, you know, there's nothing else for us to study, then we study ourselves, which is astrology. Right? And then that's a whole another university in itself.
Oh yeah, we big on astrology.
Yeah, right? So that's also something that you would incorporate, because remember that, like, everything that you do for the adults, you do for the children. So you have children's Sunday school. You know, you have adult Sunday school, then you have children's Sunday school. You have, you know, Holy Day meeting, everybody could come to, because, you know, that's just standard, you know. Civic class, you have adult civic class, then you have children's civic class, where you feed them a little bit lighter than you would the adults. You know what I'm saying?
Do you all like have would there be any way that we could like maybe do a sit-in on one of you all's Sunday school or Holy Day meetings?
Well, right now, we don't even do Friday Holy Day meetings right now. We just jump in on Nature's Holy Day meeting, because that's our temple too.
Right, yeah, and I've actually, like I said before, I've been watching his as well. So structure from
yeah. So, you know, that would be the angle. You know, that's the angle that we go, right? Just because of, you know, conflicting schedules and, you know, people's work schedules and whatever like that. The best we could do is bring them out for Sundays. You know, because bring out people like Friday night, 7 o'clock or whatever, is just, you know what I mean, pulling teeth or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we, you know, and then on top of that, with us having the dojo as well, the dojo's upstairs, and then the temple's downstairs. So with the noise issue, you know, because when there's Mufti class goes like, you know, 7 to like, sometimes brothers be up in there till midnight, 1 o'clock training. You know what I'm saying?
Ask you about that as well, because I'm interested in if there's any regiment, like any training regiments from the county.
Yeah, brother Adiza L on Facebook.
Yeah.
He's probably the only, I think he's the only Adiza on there.
Yeah, I think I have him as a friend, but I wasn't sure if that was his exact page.
Yeah. Just connect with him, and he'll deal with the whole Mufti demonstration with you. That's no issue. That's no issue. You know what I mean? That's a very good brother. Me and him go back, you know, to like high school time.
Okay. You know? I remember my first time seeing a video that you and him put up.
Right.
Is when the brother got pretty much stuck between Canada and, I don't know if he was coming from New York or not, but I remember you guys had put that up where y'all had recorded the newscasting of that whole situation.
With the brother that got pulled over or whatever? Yeah. Well, now, even on that, up to now we don't know who that dude is.
Oh, really?
Because, you know, when that happened, you know, we pretty much accounted for all the Moors. Nobody was missing, nobody was MIA, you know what I mean? When we called the policy enforcers, you know, they were tight-lipped. They weren't going to reveal any information or whatever like that. You know, like we were asking them, well, you know, how come his name's not in the news? Like, well, you know, are you going to, everybody else you guys kidnapped, you quick to put their name on the news. How come you guys didn't mention this guy? What's his name? Oh, we can't give, you know, it's under investigation, blah, blah, blah. Brother was driving like a big boy Benz and all that. And, you know, we don't know nobody with no Benz around here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it was, you know, we just took it as, you know, an agent that they put out there in order to scare people. because all during that time we were doing the right to travel demonstration. So it was just one of those things where, you know, they were doing their part to get people away from the movement. Cause confusion, you know, because that's not even somebody that we knew. You know what I'm saying? But you know, people who saw it, because the broadcast was, when it first came on, I think it was about like 1 o'clock in the day or something when it actually hit the news. You know what I mean? So you know, people are on lunch. You know what I mean? Around here, they got TVs in the subway that show that news channel. You know what I'm saying? So people seen that. Like, it's not like people didn't see that. You know? And again, you know, a lot of the things that they do when they realize that we're serious about it, they go to those lengths. You know what I mean? But then on the other hand, when you're serious about it, you also notice how fast things change, how they change policies, and they change how stuff's supposed to work, and you know what I mean? In order to, like, in order to give us props, but not really say that they're giving us props.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they don't want to give it up.
I was going to show when somebody's trying to toughen up their defense that, you know,
right,
something else is pressing them.
Exactly.
Good pressure.
Right. You know, full court. You know, full court. Every day, all day pressure.
Yeah.
You know?
Alright, so what's your take on as far as the health aspect? Like, I know we're in the beginning stages and everything.
Well, really, as far as the health perspective, really, it's you know, veggie, vegan diet or whatever like that.
Right.
You know, if you, I mean, we don't discriminate or nothing like that. You know what I mean? You know, most we do is we try to get the information to the people about eating healthy, you know, using, Dr. Sebi, Aleem Bay.
Yeah, we're on that path.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So if you're already there, then that's actually the health minister, Brother Khalid, he's supposed to be starting up some health classes on Saturdays. You know, doing Skype lectures with different people that deal with the health perspective, you know. So that's another avenue.
What was his title? What was his name?
Brother Khalid. But he's not on Facebook though. But I could send you his number.
Okay.
Right, so you can just give him a shout or a text or whatever, and he can guide you along that lines. Because we're the brothers out here, we're moving toward trying to start up food co-ops. You know what I mean? Gardening and all that, so we could sustain ourselves. Yeah. You know what I mean? And again too, like things of that level. You know, if you have the people, you know, spread the wealth around. So like have use everybody helps out in everybody backyard garden type of idea. You know, and then the same thing. You know, you fez up or whatever, and you got your gardening fez, you know, you're gonna get dirt on or whatever, and you get to work, you know what I'm saying? Doing that work in our official capacity, so that people can see it and see what the Moors are doing, see what the Moors are involved in. Also too, go on RV Bay under the Writs of Freedom page, and you'll see a document there called Permit.
Is it permit?
Permit.
Oh, permit. Oh, okay.
You're gonna download that, right? And then just if you guys got somebody that does graphics out there.
Well, I mean, most of us are artists.
Right. Yeah. Nothing. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but just a template using what's in that, and then whenever you're out doing things, you just have that permit there.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Right? And also too, when you're doing your writs and your paperwork and things of that nature, that you at least have 3 witnesses. Just have 3 witnesses on it, That way you can dead the notary.
Okay. And like as far as the seal goes, like how do we go about getting like stamp for the seal?
I had a junk drive with a template of the seal that we use, but then that it froze up on me. So we're even trying to get another one done up. A Moorish Divine and National seal, so but it's the same thing. If you have the graphics people, I could send you everything that it says or whatever, everything that's on it, and then you can just create it.
My email is rahimwahid@gmail.com. So
all right, okay.
I'll definitely, because I have the program to do all that illustrating.
Right. Okay. Because once the thing with the seals also is connecting with people like Nature and RV Bay and these people, because you don't wanna start from where you are.
Right.
You want to graft yourself onto something that's been already going on, already existing, already established. So you're not recreating anything. All you're doing is you're just jumping on board with whatever's been going on already.
Yeah.
And doing it that way, we find, is a lot easier in the recognition. Like for example, there's brothers out here who they put the seal on a document, and then they'll go get it notarized, and then the notary will tell, why you guys want another seal on this? You know what I'm saying? Right?
Yeah.
And they would really try to convince them that you don't need to come to the notary, like you already have a seal on this.
Right.
Right? Mind you, notary didn't read it or nothing like that. All they do is see the imagery.
Exactly.
And they know already that, okay, well, if you have an embosser, then obviously you know something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like with the stamp. If you have that, obviously you know something.
Okay.
Not just anybody's gonna, guy on the street's not just gonna have that.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You must belong to some type of governmental structure or something like that in order to have certain things. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, the seals thing is something that we can work on. We can I'll get you I'll get you what it says and the imagery that's on it, and then you just create it based on.
I have that done as soon as I talk to the artist. I have that done.
Yeah. And it's real simple. It's nothing advanced. I'll see. I think I should have a couple of our documents scanned that has the seal on it.
And I actually may have.
I don't know how big it is.
Downloaded one already from RB Bay. I just wanted to make sure I got the right one.
Right. Yeah.
It's one of those, and I can just go ahead and do that.
Right. Yeah, man. It's and again, it's about working. Once you're working as a unit, everybody's using the same terminology. Everybody's dressing the same. Everybody's putting the info out the same way. You're not gonna have problems when it's we'll say time to be recognized. You know what I mean? Because all your activity is gonna be done in numbers. You know what I'm saying? Like Drew Ali said, everything should be done in 3, 5, 7, 9 or whatever. So at least that way, the numbers are seen. And they don't really, it's not like they watch face. All they see is, okay, well, there's 3 feathers today, 5 feathers tomorrow, 10 feathers the next day. It's official. It's official then.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, but I mean, it's really ultimately about sticking to the protocol you know, that Noble Drew Ali set up for the Moors, because that protocol you'll find out there. That's standard. You know, it's not hard to find. You know what I mean? And again, you know, we're in the right place, connecting with us, connecting with nature, you know, watching his classes, you know, connecting with Taj, RV Bay, watching their classes. I don't know if you've been on the Moorish Nation public record site yet.
What was that?
Yeah, Moorish Nation Public Records. Okay. Right, that's Sister Anna Eid's site.
Okay. Okay.
Right, that's another good site. And again, you know, like we, you know, our perspective is continuing to study, but from the right source. Also Alim Bey's website, Dr. Alim Bey, right, and any classes that he has, because he's another Moor that has a lot of classes online.
Yeah, what was his website? I was actually watching that video that you sent me earlier today.
Yeah.
How conscious is one?
culture-freedom.com, I believe.
Okay.
culturefreedom.com. Just Google search Dr. Alim Bey and it'll come up. His site will come up. Also too, Seven Seals Publications.
Seven Seals Publications.
Yeah, that's Pleasant Bay's website.
I had one more question.
Yeah, no problem.
Like as far as our governmental body here, as far as it goes, like how do we position ourselves as far as the positions go? Well, it doesn't even matter.
It's if you go through the angle, because you can set up yourself as a study group initially, right? Group of Moors, you know, we come together every, you know, Friday, Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever, you know, just to study, right? And then use that as a training for when the temple part comes along. So like what you're doing right now is like perfect. You know, you have you set up a schedule, and then also too, this would help you bring in the people. But ultimately, if you go to, again, RV Bay Publications, they have a book on there called Administrative Functions.
We have that.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it right there.
Okay.
That's pretty much it.
So I didn't know if we were just supposed to step into the seats ourselves, or you know, a red sheet.
Well, you know, like if you go through Moors that are established as far as in the jurisdiction where you are, right? It'll be easier. Like we can, you know, like we have power to issue charters and all that, but you know, we're not going to step outside of our boundaries until we solidify all our boundaries. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like there's you know, provinces out here that we haven't even touched yet. Right. You know? But like I'm saying, you hit up, you know, Moors Grand Governor Heru, right? Okay. You got him, you got Grand Chief Nature. Actually, let me give you Nature's number too. So you connect with him. 732-312-2040. Right, so you call Grand Chief Nature. You know, use that temple as an example. You know, because he probably has one of the most correct forms of a temple. Okay. You know what I mean? Because, you know, they deal with civics every day, all day.
Yeah, you know, I noticed that.
Yeah, they deal with civics. They deal with civics hard. You know, and then through him, through Grand Governor Heru, through you know, other Moors that you build with, you would, you know, it's like, you know, Allah would guide you. You know what I'm saying? Allah would guide you to everything it is that you need in order to establish yourself correctly. You know, there's no need to, you know, there's a statement that Noble Drew Ali said where he knows where all the Moors are in the ranks. So it's not a thing where we have to go out and try to be something or set up something. Like everything, like trust me, everything's just gonna fall in your lap. Like you're gonna, you know, you might wake up tomorrow and have a message from some Moors out there. You know what I mean? That just, you know, feel the energy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because really that's how active Moors connect. Active Moors connect based on the frequency that we're on.
That is, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like that's really what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you know, and a lot of these Moors that I'm giving you numbers to and, you know, to connect with or whatever, like you could tell them Cujo sent you.
I definitely will.
Because that's you know, you wouldn't get the number if Cujo didn't already check all the parameters and make sure that, you know, yeah, these Moors need the assistance from certain people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so,
we highly appreciate it. Too.
Yeah. That's, you know, and again, if you know, if you need to do this anytime, you know, if you wanna set up just to do Thursdays, you know what I mean? We could set up something where we just, you know, every Thursday we do a little hour, 2 hours or whatever.
Yeah,
just to, you know what I mean, get the ball rolling, you know what I'm saying?
Keep our communication up.
Right, you know, and then at the same time, you know, you're connecting with other Moors and all that, you know, it's you know, it's definitely you know, refreshing to be acknowledged by Moors who are coming in, because trust me, out here we've been doing this and it's a battle out here to get some people on nationality and birthrights. You know?
You're in Toronto.
Yeah, we're in Toronto, yeah.
Those stuff out there.
Yeah. So, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, there's a lot of conscious people out here, you know, but, you know, there's not too many cognizant people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's mad conscious people out here, you know, from all walks of life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But, you know, there's more people that are diverse nationality to us that are on this than our own people that should be on this. Like I'm saying, people who I've known, like the brethren who just came to check me, whose sons were on the thing. That's a Rastafarian brother that lives upstairs. You know what I mean? And, you know, maybe about 2-3 years ago, you know, it hit him, and he just started getting into the Circle 7, and, you know what I mean, comparing that to all the Rastafarian literature that he has, and he's like, yo, this, I should have been on this 3 years ago. You know what I'm saying? You know?
I've seen videos, you know, with Bob Marley and the Wailers where they wearing feathers.
Yeah.
I've seen that before, so it's like, I know Bob was on it, so it's like, you know, not saying that he's just the whole movement, the whole Rastafari movement, but the big figure. You
that's
know?
the figure, yeah. You know, I mean, even you know, Haile Selassie's wearing a fez. You know, the Triple Crown is a golden fez that he's wearing. You know, they're not paying attention to that. No. You know, when you check all the past emperors, you know, all the past emperors, they got, you know, I can't remember the name of the island, but there's an island in Ethiopia where, you know, you take a boat over to the island to go see where all the emperors are buried or whatever. Yeah. And they got all their feathers up there sitting on, you know, above their coffins or whatever like that.
Look, they don't pay no mind.
They pay no mind. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, there's a I think you might have some pictures online. There's a emperor by the name of Ras Alula, Alula, I think his name is, and he was a Fez king. You know what I mean? you know. So, yeah, man.
We'll go ahead and wrap it up, though. It's getting kind of late over here.
Yeah. So, well, yo, we could we'll just close out with the prayer,
Okay.
and continue to keep the prophet alive, and you know, Islam to all the Moors in attendance. You know, we love you all, and we appreciate you know, the time and the energy, and just stay strong, yo. And we got this. Right? 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom. And justice.
Justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
Guide.
And my salvation.
And my salvation.
By night.
By night.
And by day.
By day.
Through his holy prophet.
Holy prophet.
Noble Drew Ali.
Noble Drew Ali.
Islam.
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 Peace and love, Moors.
Peace and
Yeah,
love.
yo. Y'all have a good night, yo. We'll build on the online or on the phone or whatever. You already know.
I'll just hit you up, stay in contact.
For sure, fam.
All right, brother. Peace.
All right, yo. Love y'all. Peace.
You too.